talked about your beloved Chelsea a little bit earlier on, and your desire to sign Moises Caicedo. Aside from that, Mauricio Pochettino has been very positive about your goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga. And the question is really, are you, Rory, going to be happy with him to stick around at the club for the upcoming season?
No. And I'm pretty sure that Mauricio Pochettino is doing this because it's a clever move. It would be ridiculous
to
from
praise
him.
the goalkeeper you want to sell. Doesn't sound that clever.
No, it sounds really clever because because if you want to sell him, it's impossible to sell him if you actually come out and give him a genuine appraisal. Nobody will buy him if you give him a genuine appraisal. Also, what you have to do is make it look like he is your number one, so that it means that when you're trying to buy somebody, you don't look too desperate. Chelsea are very desperate for a midfielder at the moment, and that's why we're being held to ransom. What we can't do is come out and say, Edouard Mendy's gone to Saudi, Kepa Arrizabalaga will never play for the club again, therefore we need to sign a goalkeeper, because it will mean that everybody suddenly puts 15 million quid on the price of their goalkeeper. So I think it is quite a clever move. But I truly believe, / choose to believe, that Kepa Arrizabalaga will not be our number one come the start of the season. Because if he is... are the most optimistic you can be. There is a ceiling. There is a ceiling on how well Chelsea season can go if Kepa Arrizabalaga is our goalkeeper to start the season. You could argue. I mean, I don't know where he ranks in terms of goalkeepers in the league, but I think he's certainly a relegation contender. If you were to rank the 20 goalkeepers in the league, the 20 goalkeepers that start games of football in the Premier League, Kepa Arrizabalaga is most certainly bottom 5.
I think that's harsh.
It's true, though. It's true. It is very harsh, yeah. It's a harsh, unflattering, unkind, some would say, assessment, but also an assessment that is totally and utterly accurate and bang on. There is nothing I've said there. It can be unkind, it can be harsh, it can be many things, but it can also be true. And Kepa Arrizabalaga has shown us time and time again that he isn't good enough to play for Chelsea. He isn't good enough to play in the Premier League. And if he does start for Chelsea, the ceiling of where we can dream Chelsea finish changes by a minimum of 3 spots.
Positive start from Pochettino. I know we spoke about it a little bit earlier on, and you said that you've got big ambitions for Chelsea next season. There's part of me that thinks those have to be reeled in just a little bit. Because you're adding pressure. I know people will say, it's Chelsea, there should be pressure. It's a different Chelsea. For you, as a Chelsea fan, have you accepted that the Roman Abramovich years may just have been 20 years of isolation in your history? That him being your owner is the thing that brought you all that great continued success, and without him as your owner, you are not the Chelsea that you think Chelsea are?
There is a chance that that's true. I think there are some Chelsea fans that worry that that's true, and I think there are some other football fans that hope that that is true. What I would like to think is what Roman Abramovich did for the club and the way that he elevated the club and took us to unknown pleasures, that should have redefined who we are. It gave us the platform to maintain everything that came before. Remember, Chelsea were on the ascendancy prior to Abramovich. Abramovich bought a club, in fact, that were in the Champions League. We were already a Champions League club when he bought the club. He solidified us, showed us things that we never thought we would see. And, of course, Chelsea have to be very grateful to what Roman Abramovich did for the club in elevating the position of the club. You know, I never thought I would see Chelsea win a Premier League. Roman Abramovich is the only reason that did happen. I don't think anybody would be so tribal to say that it wasn't linked. However, I think 20 years as a Premier club, 20 years as an elite club, 2 European Cups should give whoever follows next. Remember, owners of football clubs, they aren't. I don't even like referring to them as owners because I see them more as custodians. It's your ship to steer and to hand it over to the next person in as good a state as possible. This new bunch from America, Clear Lake, Todd Bowley, they have received an elite, dominating European club. We are on the European horizon, aren't we? If you think about the skyline of Europe, Chelsea are relevant with 2 European Cups. We very recently beat Arsenal in a European final, and I think it is their responsibility to make sure that they follow in the traditions that were set previously by Bates into the Abramovich era, and that their era follows suit.
It's tradition's a strong word.
It's
a very strong word. Because I think that, like I said, it was a period where you were elevated by the ownership of the club. And if you look at the finances, the ability to do that. I mean, we're talking about Saudi Arabia a little bit earlier on, but essentially it was
Chelsea having a benefactor.
Yeah, it was a huge benefactor that made that happen. So what you're saying is the people who are custodians of your football club should keep spending more money than they bring in to keep you at the top of football.
Not necessarily.
It's not a tradition.
No, but it's still a culture. It's still a culture that's
It's a culture,
existed
yeah,
for 20
it's a culture.
years.
It's
It's
not
a winning culture. And the reason why I'm saying it should continue is because, not only because of the money that was spent by Abramovich, what happened in those 20 years is Chelsea were redefined. Look, when I was a kid, I grew up in Kilburn in North London. The distance between Arsenal and Chelsea, it was a chasm. You would say, Arsenal were undoubtedly a bigger club than Chelsea, and they were undoubtedly London's biggest club. Without going into that debate, whatever you think of it, it has shrunk under Abramovich. The gap between Chelsea and Arsenal in the last 20 to 25 years has become far smaller than it was when I was growing up in the 90s. So Chelsea have therefore become a bigger brand. Chelsea have become far more successful. Chelsea have earned far more money. Chelsea have a stadium, a history and a pedigree that is now capable of competing at the very top. And that is because of Abramovich. But that should continue. Simply taking Abramovich's money away doesn't mean that the traditions and culture that was set under Abramovich should vanish as well. Although last year it did look like they did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There is a bit of news concerning the Chelsea squad this evening. Fabrizio Romano. Yeah, here we go. He says Fulham have made a verbal proposal for Callum Hudson-Odoi, fee to be around £4 million, which I think would be... Four?
You're kidding?
I think that would be a brilliant bit of business, £4 million.
Mate, 3 years ago, we turned down 70 million quid for Hudson-Odoi. 3 years, 70 million quid we turned down from Bayern Munich. Oh, four? Are you serious? Four? I thought you meant to stay. I genuinely
listen. I'm only going on what the production team have told me, but I've got it on two different screens in front of me. 4 million.
Gosh, I am really surprised by that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand
it's
why.
It's a big salary that he's got.
Yes, it's a big salary. I mean, we put him on a huge contract.
Yeah.
We put him on a huge contract because we were so desperate to keep hold of him at the time. And it was, it was clearly an error. But look, I think he needs a new challenge. I think there's a player there. And Fulham could have got themselves a real jewel if they can polish him up.
Needs to play, needs to stay fit.
Yes.
Clearly a very talented footballer.
Absolutely.
Went on loan, didn't perform miracles when he was on loan. But who knows, back in the Premier League, staying close to home, if you like, in West London, he could be a great performer. I'm not giving up on Callum Hudson-Odoi being a great performer in the Premier League. And I think Fulham could have got themselves a really shrewd signing.
This has to be it, though. He needs to perform at Fulham. I don't think that, when we talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi, and there's been a lot of conversation about how good he is, can he cut it, some jeopardy about is he suited to the Premier League? I think it's now or never for Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think he needs to hit the ground running at Fulham and have a really good season.